56.5%. That's that's the number that has been sitting on my desk all week. And quite frankly, it should be on yours too. That is the current labor share of income in the United States. It's declining, and it's declining at the exact same time we are seeing these absolutely massive head-turning spikes in corporate productivity driven by AI adoption. If you look at the macro data coming out of the US and Northern Europe, companies are outputting more than ever. But the direct connection between output and compensation is, well, it's fracturing. Now, a lot of people look at this and they immediately jump to the typical narrative. They say, look, the robots are coming for the jobs, the executive class is greedy, end of story. But as operators, we have to look past the first degree emotions. The real issue here isn't just a wealth gap. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of what leverage actually means. When a business sees a new tool and their very first instinct is to immediately cut headcount to juice next quarter's margin, they aren't actually building a stronger system. They are just running their remaining people ragged on an AI-powered treadmill. They're trading long-term operational resilience for a temporary bump in efficiency. Let's think about this from a leadership perspective. If your workforce is producing double the output because of these systems, but their individual compensation remains completely flat, you are actively eroding the social contract. You're telling your best people that their efficiency is actually their liability. They they see that the reward for working faster is simply more work, while the margin goes entirely to the bottom line. What happens to morale then? What happens to quality? It cratering. It always does. The systems we design reveal the quality of our leadership. If your system relies on extracting maximum output while minimizing human reward, you haven't built a sustainable business. You've built a pressure cooker. So what is the alternative? It starts with shifting the executive mindset from cost cutting to true operational leverage. AI shouldn't be treated as a replacement mechanism. It should be treated as an amplifier. Instead of firing 3 writers or 3 analysts, you use the technology to turn those 3 people into a high-leverage strategy unit. You upskill them. You change their roles from pure manual production to system oversight and strategic refinement. It takes more effort, yes. It requires actual management. But it preserves the institutional knowledge that keeps your company from falling apart when the software inevitably glitches or the market shifts. True leaders understand that growth without structure, without protecting your core talent, it just creates massive, unhedged operational risk. Let's step away from the software for a moment and talk about the physical world. There is this pervasive myth that the digital economy is somehow weightless. We talk about the cloud as if it's this clean, ethereal space. But the cloud has a physical footprint, and right now, that footprint is heavy, hot, and incredibly thirsty. By 2028, AI is projected to push power consumption up to 12% of total U.S. energy use. Think about that. Nearly an eighth of the entire nation's electrical capacity going to run silicon. By 2030, we're talking about data centers consuming 945 terawatt hours annually. That is nearly triple the combined power usage of Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Egypt combined. We are looking at a massive physical constraint that is colliding directly with our digital ambitions. For a long time, the environmental pressure on data centers was focused almost entirely on water. They were seen as water hogs, sucking up local supplies to keep these blazing hot server racks cool. And in water-stressed communities, that created immense public friction. But we are seeing a massive shift in how the industry is addressing this. Just recently, NVIDIA announced their next-generation infrastructure is moving toward recirculated warm liquid cooling. Microsoft is doing something similar, claiming their newest facilities will use as little water annually as a single restaurant. That is a remarkable engineering achievement, but here's the catch. It doesn't solve the energy problem. It just shifts the bottleneck. We've gone from water scarcity to absolute grid strain. If you are an executive planning your digital roadmap for the next 5 to 10 years, you cannot afford to ignore this physical layer. Your operational overhead is directly tied to the stability of the power grid. As utilities struggle to keep up with this insatiable demand, we are going to see rising electricity prices, potential brownouts, and massive regulatory pushback. It's already becoming a public health discussion. So, what are the forward-looking companies doing? They aren't just buying green energy certificates on an annual basis anymore. That's old school. They are moving to 24/7 carbon-free power matching. Over 1,500 businesses are now tracking their electricity usage on an hourly basis, making sure that every single kilowatt hour their servers pull is matched by clean energy fed into the exact same grid at the exact same time. This isn't about, it's not about corporate social responsibility or getting a nice ESG badge for the annual report. It is about survival. It is about future-proofing your supply chain against a volatile energy market. If you are building a massive AI-driven operation, you have to stress test your energy dependencies. If your data center partner is relying on an aging, coal-heavy grid that is already operating at capacity, your system is vulnerable. The physical layer always wins. You can have the most brilliant software in the world, but if the plug gets pulled, or if the cost of electricity doubles, your business model evaporates. If you spend any time on social media, your feed is probably filled with what I call the shiny objects. It's the endless parade of new tools, the tactical hacks, the AI marketing tricks that promise to double your revenue overnight. It's a lot of noise. It's like watching a fireworks display. It's bright, it's loud, but 10 minutes later, it's gone, and the sky is dark. Underneath all that spectacle, there are the submerged trends. These are the quiet structural movements that are actually going to determine the trajectory of this entire sector. I'm talking about central bank policy, regulatory frameworks, and systemic financial risk. The Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, they recently issued a very sober warning. They pointed out that the global economy has managed to weather some significant shocks lately, partly due to the unbridled optimism around AI. It fueled massive capital expenditure. Hyperscalers are projected to spend over $1 trillion on AI capex through 2025 and 2026. $1 trillion. That's an astronomical sum. But the BIS is warning that this massive surge could lead to an air pocket or even a broader market reset if the expected returns on that investment don't materialize quickly enough. We've already seen a rocky week for tech stocks, with companies like Alphabet, Samsung, and SK Hynix taking hits. It's not a crash, but it's a financial stress test. It's a vibe shift from pure FOMO to cautious risk assessment. Central banks they're actively discussing the risks that autonomous AI agents pose to financial stability. If you have hundreds of thousands of automated systems making split-second trading or pricing decisions based on the same algorithms, you create the potential for a systemic flash crash. So, what is the executive takeaway here? How do you navigate this without getting swept away by the hype or paralyzed by the fear? You build an internal financial risk watch list. You stop treating AI as a magic bullet and start treating it as a capital-intensive infrastructure project. You have to ask yourself, if the market experiences a major correction next quarter, how does that impact our supply chain? How does it affect our access to capital? If regulatory bodies clamp down on autonomous agents, what parts of our automated workflows are suddenly non-compliant? This is where real leadership separates itself from the crowd. The amateur is always chasing the latest tool, trying to stay ahead of a trend that changes every 48 hours. The strategic operator looks at the foundation. They look at the energy grid, the capital costs, the regulatory environment. They build for resilience, not just speed. Because when the fireworks end, the companies that are still standing are the ones that built their structures on solid rock, not on speculative hype. That's where I'm leaving it today. Let's keep our heads clear, focus on the systems that actually run the world, and build something that lasts. Talk soon.
The spark of thought, the fire inside, it's where the stars